Hey everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint this easy waterfall using watercolors. Before we can begin painting, we first need to sketch in our hills and the shape of our lake. All I did was draw curved lines on either side of the page to create my hills. I made sure to leave enough space in between each hill to be able to fit in our waterfall. Then I lightly drew in the shape of my lake. You want to make sure that the lake is wide at the bottom of the page and slightly more narrow at the bottom of the waterfall, just to give the right depth and perspective of our lake. Now we can jump into painting in our sky. I first filled up the entire sky area with clean water. Then I unevenly painted in a dark blue paint color. I kept it uneven to create a look of clouds or mist above the waterfall. While I let my sky dry, I went ahead and added a dry brush technique to each of the hills. I created the dry brush technique by loading up my brush with my gray paint, and then I dragged my brush back and forth along a piece of paper towel to take away any excess paint. Then I scratched the remaining amount of paint onto my cold press paper to create a nice texture onto each of my hills. You want to drag your brush at an angle on both of the hills. Fill in the majority of each hill with the dry brush technique, leaving the section of the bottom of the mountain closest to the waterfall white and free of paint. Once our first layer of paint completely dries, we can go back in with a blue-green paint color and fill in each hill. I will have a link in the description box below that will lead you over to my blog, where I have listed all of the specific paint colors I use for this painting, if you would like to check that out. I tried to keep the hills looking uneven in color to help give it a natural look. I did this by adding more paint to my green paint mixture to add a more darker tone around the top sections of each of the hills. I also kept the bottom section of the hill closest to the waterfall as light as possible, so it gives the appearance of the water giving off a mist around the base of each hill. Just use clean water on your brush to blend the green paint down to the bottom section of the mountains to help it blend in with the darker paint. Once our hills completely dry, we can begin painting in our waterfall. To do this, all we have to do is take a light blue paint color and with the wet on dry technique, paint in a few thin lines showing where the water is going. Then with a clean, damp brush, blend the paint into the white background. This will give the look of a misty waterfall. Add more blue water lines until you feel your waterfall is complete. If you are enjoying this painting tutorial, then you may also like this easy watercolor seascape tutorial. Click up in the top right-hand corner if you would like to check it out. Now we can paint in the water in our lake. I started by painting in the same light blue color underneath the waterfall coming down toward the end of the painting. Then I switched over to a darker blue paint mixture and loosely painted in this color around the edges of the lake. I messed around with the lake for a little bit, but as long as you feel like you have enough white space between the end of the waterfall and the lake, and that the middle of the lake is lighter than the edges, you should have a beautiful looking landscape. Lastly, I added a little bit more of the dry brush technique to the top of my hills to bring the texture out a little bit more. And there you have an easy waterfall landscape. I hope you enjoyed painting this waterfall landscape with me today. If you did, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Here are a few more watercolor landscape tutorials I think you might like to try out next.